Welcome to the February 25th, 2019 Advance Report for McGowanGroup clients and NetWorthRadio.com listeners. I am Spencer McGowan, President, McGowanGroup, and your financial weatherman for a fast-paced tour of the global financial markets. We're going to start with the Dow. We're going to ask the question in this week's long play program at NetWorthRadio.com. We're going to explore the question, is a recession coming? Notice the mini panic of 2018. Those of us that looked at our portfolios on Christmas Eve said, oh my God, this is a bear market cycle. And yes, it was. It was the quickest bear since 1987, a 20% drop in the major indexes. Well, it was the first since 2008. So what does it mean for investors? They were building in a global slowdown, and we're going to get more granular about the question, is there going to be a recession? The first answer is right here with the Dow. This week, the rally in the Dow in 2019 takes the Dow to 26,000, less than 4% away from its all-time high near 27,000. That's concurrent with corporate earnings coming in with about a 14% gain in the most recent quarter. That's powering part of this rally. And does it mean there's a recession in progress? Obviously not. The equity markets tend to build it in ahead of time, and then they explain it later. Well, the equity markets are telling you, for now, the data's coming in not a recession, at least yet. Yes, there will eventually be a recession, and there are ways to prepare for it. This weekend's program also covers global high yield and energy infrastructure and why those high cash flow assets may be the best way to ride through a potential storm in the future. Tale of two interest rates. This one that's relatively stable is the 30-year U.S. Treasury bond yield. At the same time, short interest rates were jacked up by the Fed all last year. That was one of the big stories. The Fed's just going to keep right on raising rates because they don't want inflation, because they read the Phillips curve, because they all had that back in the 70s and they feel like that's what they got to do, raise rates if everybody's got a job. And everybody does have a job. It's not a recession if 300,000 people got a job in the month of January. That's a pretty good net new jobs number. That is, again, not a recession, not yet. But this interest rate increase is probably one of the biggest dangers if it goes too far. The interest rates arguably went too high, according to what the Fed did in 2007. They inverted the yield curve, and then, of course, that led to pandemonium in 2008, which everybody's still worried about. All right, what's the Fed going to do in 2019? Here we go. Zero probability that the Federal Reserve, near zero probability, is actually going to raise this rate. It's a 5% probability at most in this chart. Well, that is most likely anywhere from 80 to 97% they don't raise rates again through all of 2019. Big story here. The Federal Reserve confirmed two things. Yes, they're likely just to stay where they are. The next thing the Fed did is said, okay, the balance sheet, that means Federal Reserve printed a bunch of electronic currency. You got to have currency to have an economy. You could use gold or silver, but that's somewhat heavy. Well, when they do the electronically printed currency, they went from $1 trillion to $4.5 trillion to replace about $7 trillion in real estate value that went away. Turns out it was probably the right thing to do now that the Dow's 26,000. But what does it mean for us? They said, we're not going to shrink the balance sheet anymore. Essentially, is what they said in their last minutes. That means they feel they're at about the right level and they don't have high inflation. That is stability. It also means with the 30-year Treasury at 3%, stuff paying over 5% has an opportunity for major appreciation. That alludes back to, not without price risk, but global high yield and energy infrastructure. This is your inflation hedge. Both pay high cash flow. That we're going to go into more detail in the long play program. Better yet, go to NetWorthRadio.com, fill out the preliminary client questionnaire, come down to the Crescent, meet the team that cares. In a 1-hour brainstorming session, we can make a difference on your intelligence read and decision making for the next 5, 10, and even 20 years. Is it a recession? Lennox International, based in Richardson, Texas here. They have an all-time new high with distance. They're an HVAC maker. That means the construction market is pretty healthy. Where was there a little correction? Caterpillar. Well, Caterpillar's reversed that since. Caterpillar making the big mining equipment, the global slowdown being built in here, but it's nothing like what we saw back in the crisis. This is a near 80% drop in Caterpillar's value. Here we have a modest correction concurrent with the Dow. So these two companies tell you it is not a recession yet. I'm Spencer McGowan, President, McGowan Group, your financial weatherman. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe, because when there is fast-breaking news in the financial markets, we will dissect it right here at YouTube McGowan Group. My firm, McGowanGroup Asset Management, sponsors NetWorthRadio.com and, of course, our YouTube channel under McGowan Group. Some educational disclosures and discussions that I wanted to add to the broadcast. The first is, I'm very proud of our team, including Stephen Norris, who will be added as soon as we redo the picture. He's our newest team member. Come down, meet the team that cares, get a written plan, because the securities we discuss, the financial news we discuss, that's not a recommendation until you actually come down and get a customized plan at the Crescent. You'll get a tour, and we look forward to seeing you. We're going to cover value at risk of loss in portfolios, and you can see it right here. Learn about our performance, what happened in 2008, how long did it take to recover. All of those items are posted right here at NetWorthRadio.com or the McGowanGroup.com. The other part of the program, when we look at price fluctuations and bear markets and risk control, that's a huge part of NetWorthRadio.com. We look forward to helping you advance your plan and your cash flow. Come down and meet the team that cares.